Welcome to Rock Solid, the Round Rock Business Leaders Podcast. Join your host, Bryan Eisenberg, as he explores the journeys of entrepreneurs and companies across Round Rock, Texas. From startups and nonprofits to large organizations, each guest shares their passion for doing business in this thriving community. Let's dive in.
Hi, everybody. It's Bryan Eisenberg, and welcome to Rock Solid. I am so grateful our guest is here today for so many reasons. But first of all, because she was just bit by a rattlesnake. And you don't hear that story every single day. So welcome, Shannon Black, to our podcast. So please share with us a little bit about that. And again, we're so happy that you were able to be here today.
I am very happy about that as well. I was gardening. I live in Georgetown. I was gardening, and I went to pick up some clippings underneath a bush that was kind of dark underneath. I didn't look because when is anything ever there? And there was a baby rattlesnake down there, and it got me on the hand.
So if you see her move her arm, you'll
it's
know.
The blood. It hurts if I don't raise it every now and then. So I'm not asking a question. It's just.
Well, you're a former teacher, so like that might be like something you're used to. But no. Now at least people will understand it.
But it's just really important if you do get bit to make sure you go to an ER.
Yeah.
Preferably at a big hospital, because those are the places that will have anti-venom, and you need to get it right away. So I was there for a couple days. St. David's and Round Rock took excellent care of me.
Shout out to them.
And so that's why I can be here with you today, because I did not have any complications. Yay!
That's a big plus. It wasn't the way I was expecting us to introduce this today, but we actually met when the Round Rock Chamber did an event where they brought you in as part of your role as SCORE chair to talk about recruiting and retaining talent in today's environment. And as I had mentioned, I had previously grown a large digital marketing agency way back in the early 90s when I started and grew it. But owning a home care agency, yes, we were getting caregivers, but obviously it was a struggle. And just little things that you shared, I was able to make small little tweaks, and it had a big impact.
Oh, that's great.
I'm proud to say only a couple times have we ever had a sponsor even a job listing because we needed more candidates. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, we have just sailed through just because of what you shared. So I want to make sure we cover that because I think it's great for everybody to understand as they're growing their business some of those things. But I want to start with kind of your background how you got into SCORE, because you started off as a math teacher, decided you needed to be an entrepreneur and start a school because you didn't find one that worked for your kiddo, and got part of SCORE, became the chair, and now I heard you started another school as well.
Yes, I know. It's a weird journey. Usually once people sell a Montessori business, they're done, I don't even know that I kind of willingly went into entrepreneurship. I couldn't find a good Montessori school for my son, so I just decided, since I couldn't find one, that I would create it. A good one was what I wanted. Mm-hmm. So I did that. I built it up to 2 locations, and then I sold almost 4 years ago now. I sold Sunrise Montessori, for any of those who know it. And then about a year later, I needed to do something with myself. So I was 51 when I sold. So, and so that's when I discovered SCORE. Wonderful organization. It's a national nonprofit. We offer free business mentoring and online and local educational workshops for people who are growing a business, starting a business, even ending a business. Mm-hmm. Like we have a 4-day workshop series coming up in a couple weeks of how to value your business and sell it. The way to maximize what you get from the sale. Yeah,
and I know you recently held one on just for the trades business as well.
That's actually coming up. So we have a women's conference this Tuesday.
Okay.
People can still register for that if they're able to get the info by then. And then we have a trades conference for those who are working in a trade and who want to start a business but aren't sure how. It's very intimidating, obviously, with a lot of moving parts. And that conference, and then that's Saturday, June 13th. Mm-hmm. And then there's what follows is a 10-week virtual workshop series that really dives deep so that they can truly make a go of this. And then we supply free mentors through SCORE. So it's this nice synergistic
little ecosystem.
Yes. And so anyway, so if anyone's interested in looking up those conferences or our workshops or free mentorship, just go to score.org and we'll set you up.
Let's talk about that, because obviously, you went ahead and you grew your businesses and sold them. Did you have any mentors, whether SCORE or not, that helped you kind of get that path clear? Because you went from being, teacher in, Round Rock High School, right, in Round Rock ISD as a math teacher.
Yes.
How did that journey go so smooth?
I don't know. I wouldn't use smooth as the adjective. I'm going to say business books, because back then, this is 20 years ago, we didn't have YouTube, right? I didn't know SCORE yet. I had no idea. That's part of why I volunteered in the chairs, because I really needed to get off. I didn't really have a business plan. I winged it. I do not recommend that. I got very lucky. I made so many mistakes. I got very lucky that I was able to withstand all those speed bumps that I encountered. But I would say business books, and there are some great ones out there that I read voraciously, because that's what I needed to learn. Okay, I'm having this issue with employees, so I'd go buy a couple, books on that, and then the long-term goal of what it is you want for your business and how you're trying to shepherd it. And so then I would buy Good to Great and all these other books to kind of help inform me. I didn't have a business background, so that's how I learned a lot of different things. But today, what's so great is there's so much content online. There is. Right? And with your digital background, So, and that's one of the wonderful things about SCORE is that we have all these workshops. About 75% are still free. And we're national, so you don't have to limit yourself to just Austin. Even though we have a wonderful workshop program, we offer a couple dozen a month. But there's over 1,000 offered every month. You just have to select any location when you do a search. And then you can, we have everything from over 100 on different aspects of AI right now to how to start a trucking business. The workshops vary widely. So it's just really helpful for people who are, trying to do this. And usually you don't know anyone when you start a business. And that's another great thing about SCORE is the mentorship part. So
let's dive into the people who show up at SCORE today. What are some of the more common, concerns they have or struggles they're dealing with? Because I know a lot of people, unfortunately, they start a business and they just go through and they don't even articulate some of the challenges they're facing. They just kind of swallowed it themselves, deal with all the stress, and they don't know that there's these resources out there. So what are the people who are actually stepping up and coming out to these events or just to the mentors? What are they struggling with?
Okay, I would say about 2/3 of our clients, they just have an idea and they don't know where to begin.
Okay.
So they have a very clear goal. And they're not sure what first steps to take.
I want to start a bookkeeping business. I want to start a restaurant.
Like for example, we have one of my clients, Desiree Fox. She started V-Wear Love, and it's basically clothing that women can wear. This is probably not a podcast.
No, that's fine.
But that women can wear in lieu of hygiene products. And so where you can wash it, and it's wonderful stuff. So she didn't know how to start, and so she came to SCORE along with a lot of other clients who are trying to figure out those first steps. But then about 1/3 of them already have a business, and they're encountering some obstacle, they have a toxic employee, they don't know what to do. We've all had that, right? All the business owners with employees, we all know what that's like. They sometimes it's a financial issue. They want to expand, but they went to the bank and were told they can't qualify, right? And they're like, I have good credit, I don't understand. So we help them look at their books, and then we help them identify some things. Not that we're CPAs, but some of our mentors used to be CPAs, and so they have the financial chops
or former CEOs who've at least played around with finance and understand what matters.
Yes. So anyway, there's a wide variety, but the biggest is that they don't know where to begin, and so from opening a bank account, filing online, right? How to get their LLC, how to get insurance, how to get a bookkeeper, and then all the other things that go along with it, like how I'm looking at space to rent. What should I do? And I always say, get a realtor.
We almost made that mistake when we started off in Office Evolution, which was great, and then we started looking for more spaces. We expanded, and we almost got caught in a terrible, terrible lease where they played games with us. And fortunately, because of our connections at the chamber, Batya Porter's a real estate agent with 12 certifications and all kinds of. She was able to go in there and actually get our deposit back, which was supposedly non-refundable.
Ooh, that's good.
Because that's a whole long story. But she helped us land into another great space, and made sure the lease was good and everything like that. And
It's
would
important.
not do that again. I would not do that again for sure. And again, I've been in business for 30 plus years. There's things I don't know, and it would be great to be able to plug into people who've done it before.
Yeah. So, those are the clients we tend to see, and it's great if anyone's interested in mentoring out there. Basically, as long as you have, say, 5 years of experience being an entrepreneur, we would love to have you volunteer. It's really fulfilling, and being able to help people start, especially when they grow. One of my first clients was Justin. He wanted to open a clay studio in Austin, and now he's making a living. He opened it up. I helped him through the year-long process with the business planning and all that, and now he's a successful entrepreneur in Austin. And those are the really satisfying, clients where you get to from start to finish, so to speak. But yeah, we help all sorts of people.
And what does it take as a commitment for a mentor if they do want to get involved?
All they have to do is go to score.org, and they'll see mentor. Basically, you just click on the link, and you can do it one of two ways. You can either just fill out our form and we'll assign someone to you. But what I recommend instead is that you do a search through our mentors. So you put in a couple keywords. Obviously, let's say you want to, in my case, if you want to start a childcare business, my name will pop up to the top, obviously, with my background. And so then they can read my profile. If they feel like I have a good background that can help them, they can then just apply directly with the link on my profile. So, and you don't have to stick with Austin. If there's someone who you
because they do virtual mentoring.
Yeah,
as well.
it's all virtual now. And so if someone wanted a certain background, for example, I had a client, he really wanted to get in touch with an angel investor. And I said, okay, we don't have any, sadly, who are mentoring in Austin. I said, but there are many in the San Francisco area with our Score chapter out there. So I just did a search, and I gave him several. He could go check out their profiles and then apply.
He was able to connect.
It's super easy.
Let's dive into, again, one of your areas of expertise, because as I mentioned, I had run a digital marketing agency. That was one thing to hire for, but hiring for a home care agency was a different type of client. And you shared some tips, during your workshop on some of the things, especially today, because hiring is also very different than when I was doing it 20 years ago. Can you share some of those things? Because I know anybody here who's trying to grow their business, can always use great advice on how to improve those job listings, because I see some really bad ones out there.
Oh, absolutely, yes. Okay, so it's very different now. Before COVID, I hired easily. I didn't have to do much, and it was super easy to hire. And then COVID happened, and a lot of the workforce kind of disappeared, right? And then it became very difficult. And so I had to do, thank goodness I used to teach math. I'm a bit of a nerd. So I basically did a ton of research and experimented a lot and developed a system, which is what I shared at the Round Rock Chamber event on hiring. And so there are some key things that most people don't know today. So the first one is, and everyone gets this wrong unless they know, the best time of the week to put an ad, to place it, is actually Sunday morning. And the reason why is that when people go to look for a job, they do a search, over 80% now. They don't go straight to Indeed. They do a search, say Google search, right? And they'll put in, I want to, I'm looking for a childcare teaching position in one of these cities or something like that. And then they will get presented with a list, like a dozen, and they'll click on those job ads. So if your job ad is not SEO optimized, if it's not fresh, it's not going to get picked up. So the reason why you want it on a Sunday morning is that it takes Google and other search engines about 24 hours to go through and pick up the SEO in your ad and kind of catalog it, right? And the reason why that's important is because the number one time of the week that people look for jobs are Mondays during lunchtime. Number one. So you want to make sure your ad is in by Sunday morning to make sure it's in the system. So when those people hit, that they're seeing it, right? That it's getting presented to them. And then Tuesday mornings at 10 a.m. or the second biggest time. So So knowing that, people would obviously place their ads different. I used to place them on Thursdays.
Yeah.
Right. So that's changed. And then the other major thing that I would recommend is don't do like a wall of text anymore.
Yeah.
You got to make it shorter and sweeter, right? Like we were talking about before the podcast, explaining culture, purpose, right? Very important, but you have to do it in a shorter way. And then the way you get SEO in your ad, because I know I hear that my eyes start to roll back in my head. It's like, okay, what does that even mean? So what I recommend is that you do a bunch of hashtags. So with any job ad I do today, I put at least 30 hashtags. So this is at the bottom of the ad. Everyone ignores them. So it's like, the number sign, right? So hashtag childcare, Austin, hashtag Pflugerville childcare, whatever, right? So you can put a bunch of different cities. You can put different titles. You can put childcare worker, childcare teacher, daycare teacher, Montessori teacher, right? And so that's the SEO. So that way you don't have to worry about it in your ad, right? Which is complex and most people don't know, like what's, a long keyword or whatever. So if you do those two things, if you do the ad, if you place it Sunday morning, and then you do hashtags. I mean, you can't do too many. Like Indeed, they'll let you do as many as you want and everyone ignores them. That's what's so great. Like no one's going to look through your hashtags, so you can do as many as you want, and that's what Google and other search engines pick up. And then just those two things alone will make a big difference. But then how you word your ad is also important. That it's light, that it's friendly, it's welcoming. Trying not to use masculine words like execute. Those kind of, if you're not sure what a masculine word is, just Google, what are masculine words typically used in job ads, and then you'll get a list. Like, don't use those, because men may love them, but women, they're off-putting. So if you're looking for women, you don't want to use masculine words that are more aggressive in nature. So there is a bit of an art to it, but once you figure out the science part, it's not bad. And then you can reuse it. So
What's the most common thing you're hearing from people about, hiring and retaining talent today?
The number one thing I'm hearing is that they're still getting a flood of people who are not qualified, and they're having to take way too much time combing through them. And even when they get them, they didn't represent themselves very well because they don't know if it's like AI going through their resume and adding things that aren't realistic, or they just don't even put thought into what they're putting, in their resume or online or whatever, and they're letting AI completely do it. But then they get them kind of in the door, right, for an interview, and it's a very different look. So people are having to get creative with. So for me in my business, we always do a 10-minute Zoom pre-interview. It saves a lot of time before we invite them in for an in-person interview. But those are the main things. And then just finding people. Austin, as you know, very tight, our labor market. It's really hard to find the right person. I was just talking with a friend of mine who's a lawyer, and she's having a heck of a time finding a legal assistant. And she would prefer someone who's experienced. And so I asked her, I said, so older? And she said, yes, preferably, but you can't put that in an ad.
Of course.
And so I said, well, from personal experience, I know that people, once they start to hit their 50s and whatnot, they're typically starting to take care of, elderly family members, and they need more flexibility and more time. Have you considered looking for a part-time assistant?
Or flex time.
Instead of just your classic 8 to 5. And she hadn't. So you have to get a little creative today. It's things like that. You have to it's very psychological. You have to think, what do they want? What do they need?
Yep.
I get a lot of young moms who apply. They're attracted to childcare in part because they have a child, but because typically you can get reduced childcare. But with my business, we offer it for free because you've never seen someone work so hard or do such a good job when they have free childcare.
Yep.
They fight to stay, right? Because it's something that's unusual. So.
Yeah, well, the same as in our business, and it's funny, we don't necessarily articulate all the benefits that we offer until they come for the interview, because I don't want people applying just for the benefits.
Yeah.
And same thing, we started off with a lot of virtual interviews, but because obviously caregivers, we required to make sure they show up on time, we decided to make it once we moved into our new office space. You've got to show up, and
Yes.
if you're not early, we know that right away, and that's part of our consideration factor. And it's like, we're trying to see the behavior we're expecting when they're working with clients. How they come off, what their energy level is like, and so just to compress that cycle, we decided to offer this. And there is, I think, what you would say also, there's no one exact formula for every business, but it is coming up with these creative ways because it's hard to keep great employees, especially in our industry. It's an 80% turnover rate. Yeah.
I'm like hurt for you. That's so high.
But we
man.
still have our very first caregiver who took over our very first client. She's still with us all this time.
So
Okay.
here's another thing that business owners can do that makes a really big difference. So at least once a year, I do an anonymous survey, and I ask a ton of questions of my team. And asking them why they like working for you is really beneficial. And especially, they're not typically comfortable telling you to your face.
Correct.
Right? But in an anonymous survey, they're okay with it, right? So so that's another way for trying to figure out what the secret sauce is, so to speak, especially for those that like working for you. It could be something really simple.
Correct.
But simple's great because you can easily
Duplicate that,
advertise
yeah.
that. Yeah. So and everyone's needs are different, and they change over time, right, as we get older. But yeah.
Yeah, well, we have that as part of our business as well. So we actually have a third party that goes and calls our clients and our caregivers. They choose random ones every month, and we get customer satisfaction feedback from all of them. So we kind of see what
that's
those
great.
things are. And we were awarded best employer and best provider of
Yes.
choice.
Oh,
So
congrats.
those things make a difference. And when I'm talking to caregivers, in our office and able to share that, they're like, oh, okay, that stands for something. And again, that comes back to the culture. I mention it in the ad. It doesn't click with them until they actually sit with us and actually see it, because you've got to demonstrate it. And I think that's one of the bigger challenges, because I do want to talk about that. Like, okay, so you got the job listing, they respond. Now they come in for that first interview. What are you looking for? How are you helping the people you're coaching make sure they're getting a good job, getting a good candidate from that interview?
So part of what we do an in-person interview. This is when they come in, right? And we'll ask some standard questions. We'll ask some scenario questions, right?
Yep.
Like, okay, you have these 3 or 4 things happening at once. Like, what should you do? How should you handle that? But then we also ask some random questions that they've likely never been asked before, and it's to see how they respond. It's to get the emotional side. So, like, one of the questions we ask is, "What is your favorite color?" And of course, they're like, "In what context? Any context? Favorite car color, favorite wardrobe choice, like whatever." And then they'll tell us, and we'll say, "Okay, why?" So if they don't light up, kind of explaining their favorite color to you, that's concerning. That's like, okay, what's going on?
Their affect is wrong. Now my
Yeah.
social work hat comes on. It's like, yeah, their affect is wrong. They're trying to put on a different show.
And also when they give their reasoning. So like I once had a young lady come in for an interview, and she was great. And then I asked her the color question, and she said, "Oh, I love black." And I was like, "No, don't say black." Because I thought instantly, worst color choice ever. And then I said, "Why black?"
But the why is the more important
The
part.
why is way more important. She said, "Because I really love light, especially like more pastel colors. And if you add just a hint of black, it makes it all pop. And it makes me so happy to see them more highlighted so they stand out to me. It just makes me so happy." And I was like, "Oh my God, when can you start?" Like,
Yeah.
So really the why is the explanation is very important. But then the second part of the interview, we then put them in a classroom, and our leads, our teachers in there, or it part of it is to see how they interact with the children, but then our teachers are also asking them questions, and of course they're relaxed.
Yes.
So
Because they're not in front of the administrator.
yes,
Yeah.
and so some of them get that they're still being interviewed, right? But some don't. But I learned early in the process that I would then go and ask the lead teacher, like, thumbs up. Thumb in the middle or thumb down. And if they did not give a thumbs up, I would not hire the person. I don't care how much I liked them. They saw something that they did not show me, and I would trust my lead. Because every time, if they were like, "Well, she's okay," every time I hired that, they never worked out.
Yeah.
So
great advice I got is, hire slow, fire fast.
Yeah, yeah. Unless you want to pay unemployment, and I don't like paying unemployment. So I try to hire or let people go, giving them chances a little slowly.
Yeah,
but I do hear what you're saying.
It's
like,
a
put them
shorter
through more paces, because then you hire the right person from the get-go. Yeah,
because it's protecting your culture today is probably more important than it's ever been in the history of hiring.
Oh, it's really important. If people, that people leave a job usually for a bad boss, right? Or a toxic, employee who's making your life miserable. So it's really important that you have the right culture, because then it self-regulates. This is the key, is that once you set it up well, it actually doesn't take a lot of work to keep. You do have to, feed it, but it doesn't take a lot of work to keep it going, because when someone comes in who's not the right fit, the rest of the people, they make them so uncomfortable, because they're like, oh yeah, we don't do that here. It's like, oh.
Yeah. I kind of just want to wrap up in one other area, because, you talked about it, 2/3 of the people that come to SCORE are first starting their own business. How do they know, when they need to do their first hire, and who that person should be, what that first role should be?
Usually they know that they need help, but that doesn't mean that they can afford it yet, right? And then they also struggle, which I totally understand, giving up the control.
Yes.
Because no one's ever going to do as good of a job. No one's ever going to care as much as you are, right? But they get to a point where they see that they're either, it's one of two things typically. Either they're losing money, right, because they've maxed out whatever they can do with their hours, or their life, like the balance is off. Like they're
just
miserable.
getting burnt out. Yeah.
Getting burnt out. They're miserable in some way, right? So that's when they basically start looking at it, but they have a very hard time with it. So, but then once you kind of cross that threshold, it gets easier, because you learn from it. And especially if you talk to others who have done it, they can give you tips. They can, say, hey, we'll look for this, or have you tried offering that? And just having honest, upfront conversations with your employees. I do so with my team. It makes, and my business partner, Laura, who runs the daily operations, she's fabulous, that it's funny, most entrepreneurs, business owners, they don't realize, and managers, that you can be firm and kind at the same time. They're not mutually exclusive. So you can sit down and say, hey, you've been late 3 times in the last 2 weeks. You know that I need you here on time. So what's going on? Is there something, do you need to change your hours? Sometimes it's a simple fix like, oh, well, now your child's going to a new school because you moved and you can't get here, right? And then you can fix it. But other times it's just letting them know, like, this is not okay. So, but it's definitely, it's a certain skill set being an entrepreneur, and you can learn a little bit ahead of time, but you don't know it till you go through it. It's kind of like being a parent. You don't know what it's like until you have your own child. So, but it's not for everyone, but if it's for you, it's awesome. I really enjoy it.
If people want to learn more about SCORE and getting plugged into a mentor, especially in our area, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you, get in touch with the chapter?
Yeah, thank you. It's score.org. So technically it's score.org/Austin, but they'll ask what your city is and they'll automatically put you in. So, yeah.
Perfect. And if people have questions directly for you, is there a great place for them to connect with you online or something like that?
So in my profile, I have my email address. So if they just do Shannon Black on the SCORE website, then they just click on my profile and they'll see my email in there, and then they can email me.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Shannon.
Thank you.
I'm, again, so glad you're here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you helping me spread the word about SCORE.